Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mang, and today we're going to be playing a little bit more of Mythos Tales. Mythos Tales. If this is your first time joining us for this, Mythos Tales is a board game, I guess. It's very similar to Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. Basically, there is a big book filled with investigations, and you're going to be reading a lot, and you're going to be taking notes, and it's kind of like a choose-your-own-adventure a little bit, but you're actually trying to solve a mystery. There is a case, there are questions that need to be answered. So really what it comes down to is going to the right locations in the right order, getting the right information that you need, and then at the end of it, you are asked a series of questions that you hopefully can answer. That's pretty much the game. Now, since it's Mythos Tales, it is steeped firmly in the Cthulhu mythos. Pretty much everything takes place in Arkham. So we have a big map of Arkham over here, which is pretty nice, pretty cool. And there's going to be a lot of weird stuff going on, and it's very Cthulhu mythos, which is great. So we are doing case number 3 today, which is the King Cometh, which is very cool. I don't know if it has to do with the King in Yellow or not, but it's got this really cool artwork. There you go. You can see there's a pentagram and yeah, all that kind of stuff going on. So there's going to be some cultists, I would imagine, at the very least. So let's just dive right in and see how it goes. I'm going to fail, but maybe I can fail with style. Okay, Investigation 3, the King Cometh. Players will be using the requirement rule. Review this rule as needed, blah, blah, blah. So I think that means that we have to... There are going to be cards that we have to pick up. I'm pretty sure that's what it means. I haven't played in a little while. Last time I played, we had Ziggy here helping me out. Today I'm back to being by myself. I've done most cases in Sherlock Holmes and this game by myself, so not a huge deal. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it just means that I'm going to be using the cards, so I don't think that's a big deal. Okay. Investigation complete. Investigation 3 is lengthy and requires more legwork than previous investigations. Great. Allow a greater number of location visits and do not rush to finish ahead of Armitage. Questions are more involved and scoring a little more stringent. Oh, so this is they're basically saying, yeah, this is a tough one. This is a tough one. Armitage speculates we will be required to visit quite a number of places and talk to a number of people. How many I am unsure. Therefore, I will allow you to the full 7 days, although it is highly unlikely that you or I need to visit 21 locations, so you should try to finish up by day 7 evening. So that's the biggest change between this game and Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. In this game, you actually do have a limit to the number of places you can visit. Sherlock Holmes, you just lose points the more you go to. This one, there is a hard limit where you will be stopped. So we have a time tracker here. I guess I can show that. There's a time tracker. So every time, so we're starting here day 1 morning, and every time we go to a new location, we're going to be moving down and then over to the second day and so on and so forth. So by putting it all the way here at the end, day 7 evening, that's the end point. That means that this is the longest that a case can actually be. Great. Let's get to it then. We're going to be here a while. The King Cometh, Investigation 3, Arkham, Massachusetts, August 19th, 1929. The weather brings incessant rain, the pleasant sunshine of weeks ago, a distant memory. The gutters of old Arkham choke on the town's detritus, washed from French Hill and gurgling toward the Miskatonic. You are again called upon by your mentor, Professor Henry Armitage. His summons is terse, a simple come at once. Given your last involvement with the old university librarian, you do not hang about. Armitage's office is lit by several green glass-shaded lamps, and a fire burns low in the grate. Judging by the ash, it has been burning for the better part of the night. Armitage turns from the window. You came quickly. I thought you might. I have spent the night working out what I saw yesterday evening. At last, thanks to Alhazred, I think I may have a handle on it. He gestures absent-mindedly toward a heavy tome resting on a nearby lectern. He rises in his chair and leans to water his flowers. Last night I attended the theater to watch The King Cometh. However, what I had hoped would be a pleasant distraction turned out to be anything but. You've seen today's newspaper, I take it. The unusual rash of deaths is not, as our friends at the Advertiser would have us believe, unconnected. They were all there last night at the play. The poor victims, God rest their souls. He shakes his head as if trying to clear cobwebs. A fugue clings to my mind. I have yet to understand everything fully, but the Alhazred confirmed my suspicions that the play was a veil covering a sinister rite. Pauses to collect his thoughts. The actors weaved a ritual into their performance. During the third act, the walls of our reality weakened. A ritual was conducted before our eyes on stage. Then a message came through from beyond Aldebaran. Okay, it's Haster. Most of the audience, myself included, were entranced by the act. It was all beyond our control. But those of the audience seated in the front row, I believe they caught the full force of an evil message. What was the message? I'm not sure as yet. The deaths reported in the paper are no coincidence. Of that I have no doubt. Garrison is out of action at present, laid low by a malady of the stomach. And the rest of the police are unfortunately short-sighted, though they do have information. Our enemies have a head start on us, but they cannot be allowed to finish whatever it is they started. It is down to us. Find out what happened at the theater and the contents of that message. Then meet up with me again once you have all the pieces. Okay. So, Haster, also, I guess, known as the King in Yellow. He is generally located in around Aldebaran, which I don't think that's where Carcosa is. I'm trying to remember. It's a lot of little details. So, The King in Yellow is also a play. When you see the play, usually what the yellow sign is involved, and basically it entrances you, and you succumb to Haster's control and things like that, and usually involves murder and suicide and bringing other people into the fold and blah, blah, blah. The Tatters of the King, I think, is the Cthulhu RPG campaign. Well, that's really all about that. That starts with basically the exact same scenario. So we have the newspaper. I guess we could read this. Police hunt brutal murderer. In the early hours of the morning, police were called to the scene of a fatal stabbing at the Arkham Trolley Company. The victim, who has been named as Francis Long of downtown Arkham, was killed on the sidewalk. Police have a witness to the crime and have released an initial statement to the press saying they are following up a number of leads and are organizing a manhunt for the killer. Okay, that's number one. Tragedy befalls young socialite. Last night, the 24-year-old socialite and darling of Arkham, Caroline Merrill, was found hanged at her uptown home. Police are not treating the death as suspicious. For all her outward positivity, Miss Merrill harbored personal demons, which we will never fully understand. She is survived by her longtime partner, Mark Gasquet, the Canadian entrepreneur. Okay, so that's 2 murders. There's apparently an unknown cave system that was discovered underneath Arkham. Yeah, that's probably suspicious. Geologist specialists have called this find remarkable. They intend to mount an expedition. That's weird. Okay, so there's a to the editor article little thing here that talks about the sanitarium, Arkham Sanitarium, and mental health, and it says the good work in mental health that goes on is all too often swept under the carpet with preconceived notions. But I don't know if this is intentional or if I got like some weird misprint. There's not really any way to know. But carpet with preconceived is kind of written over, and on top of it, I can't make out the first word, but it says children possessed. That seems like an odd misprint, so I feel like that's kind of intentional on the game maker's part. Maybe. I don't know. Also, there's a little ad here that says, for a better start in life, start cola earlier. Nice. There's apparently some shit going down in Dunwich. 4 isolated disappearances occurred in Dunwich last month. And a woman was injured and her horse was killed as an accident in Dunwich. And then there's an announcement that somebody passed away June 25th, which is odd because this newspaper is from August 19th. But then there's another person that died Friday morning. But this is a Monday, so that's not related because the play was on Sunday night. So really, I guess it's just the 2 murders, as far as I can tell. Although the unknown cave system does fascinate me quite a bit. Okay. So, so we're gonna head to the theater first. That seems just like common sense, right? So, the theater, the Amherst Theater. Did he say what theater was? Because there's a couple theaters. He just says the theater. There are 2 theaters, so I guess we'll try the Amherst first. So D25 is going to be our first location. And we'll put down our time tracker. D25 is not in the book, so it's the other theater. He could have just said the Manly Theater. Okay, N9 instead. Damn Armitage. Okay. Arkham's Manly Theater is one of the premium attractions in terms of the nightlife. A young woman with a ledger and pen in hand approaches you. Are you here for the auditions? And you hastily tell her that no, you're looking into the play from the previous night. The theater manager, Lucinda Thayer, has canceled its run because of the dismal showing, the woman says. You saw the review that Checkley gave us in the Advertiser? He was the final straw, and we're breaking the set now and putting on a small production of The Sleeping Beauty to fill the gap. You ask if the manager is available, but you are told that today is her day off. I knew there was something amiss with the whole show last night. No wonder the actors were so cheap. I'm sure they had some sort of swindle going on with Samuel Averill, the tickets clerk. He and his other half were looking mighty suspicious last night, and I even saw him talking furtively to the lead actor, the big man with the shaven head. He's not shown up for work today either. As a parting inquiry, you ask where the actors are staying, and she tells you they can be found over at the Harding House, where the staff from the theater help deliver their trunks. Though they are probably out drinking somewhere. They are asking where they could find booze. That's it. Okay. So, we have a couple names here. We have Lucinda Thayer, who is the theater manager. I don't know if she's complicit or she just kind of was like, yeah, it seems like a cool play. So I guess we'll read the review. I guess, might as well, right? Checkmate Theater Review with Ambrose Checkley. The King Cometh. However, I'd rather wish that the King hadn't bothered to show up to the Arkham Manly Theater last night. Oh, damn it. One is almost lost for words for the drivel that the audience was forced to endure. The characters were poorly portrayed, and the story made little sense, consisting of scenes where the actors would spout disconnected narrative that meandered toward a half-hearted finale of a ritual of a girl in a chair with no dialogue. The play left a nasty taste in the mouth and your correspondent with a splitting headache. It is no wonder that I have learned that the management of the theater has decided to prematurely end its run after just a single performance. Better luck next time, I suppose. So, they had already canceled the performance before this review then. So, I'm not sure. That doesn't seem to add up, but I don't think that's just, yeah, it's just kind of a gaffe. That's just, I don't know. Never mind. Okay. Samuel Averill, who is potentially much more complicit in something, he was the ticket clerk. And they were looking mighty suspicious last night, and I saw them talking furtively to the lead actor, big man with shaven head. So, anytime in any sort of Lovecraftian thing of anything that somebody is doing anything furtively, they're a cultist. Or a deep one, or something like that. You never want to be caught doing something furtively, alright? Alright, and then we got the lead actor, which is a big man with a shaven head. Hold on. Okay. Question I really want to know is where's the director? But it doesn't seem like I have that information. So our next bet, we can either go to check out Samuel Averill or the Harding House. It sounds like as the ticket clerk, Samuel Averill would have a house in town. Whereas the actors were probably all out of town because they're staying at the Harding House. So I guess we'll track down Samuel Averill. Can't be talking furtively, man. It just doesn't work. Alright, D51. I should really check that it's there before I write it down, but it'll be there. It'll be there. The door to the small house is opened cautiously by a thin bird-like man with a long nose. He peers over wire-framed glasses, an ugly purple bruise closing his left eye. Can I help you? You explain that you've come from the theater, and that you are investigating the disturbance last night. The man's bottom lip trembles, and he folds almost immediately without any pressing whatsoever. They made me give it to them. I didn't want to. He snivels, and you feel immediately sorry for him. You reassure him and ask him what he means. The list! Those actors from last night's play were desperate to catch up with those who attended the theater, the front row in particular. I tried to explain to them that I couldn't possibly reveal the list of our patrons, but they beat me and forced me to give it to them. Hendrik will tell you, he was there with me. We had arranged to meet for a nightcap after the show. That thug with the bald head hit me and forced me to write the list down for him. Then I read this morning that Mr. Long and Miss Merrill died last night, just after I had given him the list of names. He turns to a side table and hastily begins writing. Here, take the list, see if you can't warn the others before the same happens to them. Alright, so we have a lot of names here. I'm going to go ahead and write them down because I think for the questions portion at the end, you can't consult the book. You can only consult your notes. So we have seat numbers and we have names. So this will take me a little bit. So we have Francis Long, who I think he's already dead. Yep. And then we have Edward Fisk. He's one of the Fisks. Abby Osgood. Carolyn Merrill, who is also dead. Seems like one they tried to make look like a suicide, and then the other they were just like, screw it. Anthony Jackson, Carlton Rich, Lauren Reed, Penelope Larry. That's a terrible name. David Danforth. He's a Danforth. That's good. and Julian Stratton. Okay, so we could go to each of these persons' houses and, you know, see what happens. But we want to stop the criminals, or at least figure out who they are. We don't want to, you know, say, hey, you're going to die. That's not what we're about. So we got the list of names. He mentioned a Hendrik. I don't know exactly who that is. I have no idea who Hendrik is. But I think we're going to go to the Harding house then. It seems like our next best bet. I don't think we'll find the actors there, but you never know. So the Harding house, N15. It is now evening of day 1. Yeah, there's a lot of locations in this one. Okay, N15. The Harding house offers moderately priced board and breakfast, but the sign outside declares it has no vacancies. As you push inside, William Harding begins to tell you he is full. You can stop Mr. Harding and tell him you are looking for the actors from the Manley Theater's production of The King Cometh. His face immediately darkens. Not the sort of people we will be inviting back anytime soon. They just need to clear out their things, and then I'll be glad to see the backs of them. They've not come back yet, still drinking at the speakeasy, my guess. You ask if you could see their rooms. He agrees, showing you upstairs and unlocking the doors. Wow. That's crazy. I'm not even like a detective, I don't think. I'm just a guy. The 3 small rooms are in a terrible mess. Food lies half-eaten, empty wine bottles roll on their sides, and clothes and costumes are strewn hither and thither. There are 3 of them staying here, dirty devils. Their boss was staying somewhere else in the town with one of his friends. You ask which of the men was the one with the shaved head, and Harding confirms that this is Fincher, the boss. Always got a dusting of flour all over his clothes, probably from his day job. Take requirement card 4. Well, hey, that's progress. Okay, we got requirement card 4. Harding departs and you take a moment to search the rooms. You find nothing except 3 empty trunks and a slim volume of cheap fiction entitled The King in Yellow. The trunks have the following names on their luggage tags: S. Barnes, E. Klasnick, and M. Gorski. If you would like to read The King in Yellow, proceed to Supplemental Encounters at page 56 and read entry 6. No card is required. Well, I mean, in a meta sense, I really don't want to read The King in Yellow because that's how you go insane real quick. But in game, in character, I feel like, you know, you probably would glance through it. So let's do it. Let's read The King in Yellow. You begin to skim the slim volume, which appears to be a play about Casilda and Camilla, and the doom that comes with the arrival of a man called the Stranger. As you read, your eyes begin to itch from the inside. That's a good sign to stop. And you get a nagging sensation that you are being observed over vast distances by an alien-feeling intelligence. You slam the volume shut, drenched in sweat, wishing you'd never found the accursed book. As you turn to leave, you see the discarded clothing from the pattern of the yellow sign, and you recoil in horror, tasting bile and gasping for fresh air. And then it gives a little excerpt. Strange is the night where black stars rise, and strange moons circle through the skies. But stranger still is lost Carcosa. Well, we didn't lose any sort of... I don't know, maybe it'll come up later, but it didn't seem like we lost points for insanity, which I think happened last time. Okay, so that was fine. That's The King in Yellow. So, We have the pretty much the names of the 3 actors, but those are they're just bit players. We don't want them. We want the big man, Fincher. So he's got a dusting of flour all over his clothes, probably from his day job. So this, to me, points to a bakery, I would guess. So let's take a gander, shall we, if we can't find any bakeries. We have Anne's Bakery. That might be the only bakery in town. She's got a monopoly. There's a confectionery store. Maybe we'll try that first. Oh, there's Taranowski's Bakery. Okay, I think that's it. So 3 potential places. If they're all there, you know, if it's all just like a waste of time, that sucks. But we'll try the confectionery store first. M36. M36 is not in there, so we don't have to write it down. It doesn't take any time. Taranowski's Bakery, M46. That is in the book. Okay. Oh, Tartanowski. The Tartanowski's Bakery is closed for refurbishments, but you can hear raised voices through a first-floor window. You duck under the canopy and decide to eavesdrop on the conversation between 2 men. One of them appears to be very angry, yelling about the missing piece. The other voice is reassuring, but definitely submissive. You consider calling the police immediately, but decide instead to see if you can find anything more incriminating. Pushing 2 loose boards aside, you enter the bakery. The voices are louder here, the angry man shouting about missing the opportunity to bring Carcosa to Earth if the incantation is lost. He rants about a mistake made at the theater last night that appears to have enraged him. Suddenly the voices above you are silent, and you hear footsteps coming down the stairs into the room where you stand. The adrenaline surging in your veins, you throw yourself down behind a wooden workbench. Your luck holds, and the footsteps reach your room and then move off elsewhere. Cautiously, you peep out of your hiding place. You realize you have been holding your breath for what seems like minutes, and you let it out with a long sigh. If you have requirement card 4, proceed to supplemental encounters and read entry 4. I don't know why you'd come here if you didn't go to that last place that tells you about the flour, but sure. You spot some flour spilled around the cellar door and footprints leading downward. Recalling the information about the shaven-headed man whose clothes are often dusted with flour, you decide to investigate. The cellar proves to be warm, dry, and airy. Around the room are dozens of sacks of flour, and more loose white powder covers the floor where it's been spilled. More interestingly, there are several stools around a low table in the center of the room. On the table, you can see a flyer for last night's performance of The King Cometh, and written on it is the phrase, "First, hear us as expectant. We raise our faces to smell the air for hatred. We strain our ears for the sound of love." A shudder runs down your spine as you read the words. The names of the actors are also listed on the playbill. Playing Casilda is Evie Klasnick, playing the stranger is Thomas Fincher, playing Casilda's son is Silas Barnes, and finally playing a town patrician is Michael Gorski. Also in a different hand on the table amongst some other papers is a list of names. And it's the same list of names we already wrote down. There's also a door at the far end of the room with a peculiar locking mechanism on it. There are 6 tumblers, each with 5 letters on it. The first tumbler has F, W, G, H, and N engraved on it. The second has P, A, X, T, C. The third has J, M, O, R, S. The fourth has C, E, F, T, I. The fifth has G, R, C, C, U. Finally, the last tumbler has I, R, L, V, U. Tumblers can rotate to spell a word. If you can think of a 6-letter word using the letters on the tumblers, which is also connected to the cult's ritual incantation lines, no card is required. Proceed further down this requirement section and read entry number 8. Otherwise, you'll need to return later. Well, we're going to figure this out right now, so let me write all this down. 6 words has to do with their incantations, huh? We can figure it. It's 6 letters. The word. It's a word. It's a word. You know, how hard could it be? Okay. Okay. GRCCU Okay, so from their ritual incantation lines. Well, it's Haster. Okay, it's pretty easy. Yeah, Hastur is Haster. I don't know where you'd see that elsewhere, but luckily, it's all up here, baby. You feel fairly confident that the police know you are here should you get into trouble, so you begin to gently click the tumblers into place, spelling out a word. If the word you have chosen is Haster, then continue reading. If not, the lock refuses to budge as the tumblers become frozen in place. Stop reading here and return to your blah, blah, blah. You are blocked from this for the remainder of the investigation. Nice. I actually feel pretty good about myself. Damn, if you don't know anything about the Cthulhu mythos, that's rough. But it's also unlikely you're playing Mythos Tales, I guess. I mean, there's probably a clue somewhere that mentions Haster. Somewhere. What's also interesting is it's literally on the same page. You know, you're reading all these letters and stuff and trying to figure it out. If you just glance like 4 inches away, it says Haster in all capital letters. So I did not look at it. I swear, it's not that tough of a puzzle, but it's there if you need it. As the final tumbler rotates to the letter R, you hear a soft click, and trying the door handle, find that it turns freely, allowing you access to the room behind. With sweaty palms, you inch the door ajar and peek inside. At last, you have stumbled upon the cult's inner sanctum. The room beyond the door is dimly lit, with dozens of candles dripping wax under their stands. The walls are hung with dirty and patched yellow cloth, and sitting with his back to you is a massive man. He is stripped to the waist, and his body is anointed with angry welts where he has been indulging in self-flagellation. Horrifically, he wears a pale mask that is completely blank. Not even eye holes interrupt its empty smoothness. He does not stir as you push the door open. He appears to be in deep meditation. On the floor are 5 scraps of paper containing the incomplete incantation. You look up, and the sight at the end of the room sends you recoiling in horror, sprinting back into the cleansing Arkham rain. The sight will haunt your dreams until the day you pass from this world. You shudder as you recall. The shaven-headed man is in his appalling blank mask, seated facing a wooden throne. He was clad in shreds and patches, mere wisps of imagination, and as he was speaking, with a consumptive, ragged, tearing hiss, speaking with his servant, the shaven-headed murderer, speaking of doomed Carcosa. Oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, so the shaven-headed man was seated facing a wooden throne, and on the throne was clad in shreds and patches, speaking with a tearing hiss. Okay, so yeah, we just saw the King in Yellow in Arkham under a bakery. Okay, that's good. I did not expect that. But ultimately, that means, well, I guess it's a fairly dead end, really. So again, we cannot solve the case, right? There is nowhere that I at least I don't think, there's nowhere we can go where we're like, you win, you know? It all comes down to the question. So we pretty much just keep going until we can get as much information as we can. So that was our 4th location. So our best bet now is either to track down the theater manager or one of the actors. I guess we'll go with the actors, right? I just saw Gorski. No, No Gorski. No Gorski doesn't live here. That was Gorzakowski is what I saw. Klasnik. No. None of them I think are residents here, and they're all at the Speakeasy apparently. Okay, so none of them are living here, obviously, because they're at the house, the boarding house. All right, so let's find the Speakeasy for this place, shall we? The Speakeasy is at N4. Let's rock and roll. It's just called the Speakeasy. N4. You rap softly on the door to Arkham's much frequented Speakeasy and are admitted by a burly doorman. You head to the bar and order yourself a drink, asking the barman about the actors from last night's play. He gestures with his bar towel towards a snug where the sounds of raucous laughter can be heard. They've been in here since last night and run up a huge bill, that's for sure. There was another man here with them, but he left this morning, telling them to meet him at his lodgings. I don't know where that would be, but I bet the guy works at Tartanowski's bakery. He was covered in flour. He did leave $15 to cover the tab. They've already burned through that, though. Looking closer, you see two men and a woman deeply drunk and laughing in an unsettling fashion. The barman probably would not appreciate the police being called to the bar. It would create some awkward questions for the owners, employees, and the 4 off-duty cops playing poker in the corner. You call a couple of Garrison's reliable officers whom you can rely on for discretion and meet them a few minutes later. They agree that they will lie in wait for the villains to emerge and arrest them in the street. They grin and wave goodbye as you continue your investigation. Take requirement card 4, but we already got that because we took the harder route. I had to use my brain. Flour. Alright, okay. Try the theater manager, I guess. Thayer, Bueller, Thayer. L. Thayer is at F32. See if we can't track him down. I mean, we already saw the King in Yellow, for Christ's sake. Case solved. We're boned. That's what I'd say. F32 is not in the book, interestingly enough. I thought for sure he would have been there. Okay. There's an expert on the Mythos. Here. Pasquale Fenton, L4. We'll go talk to him. He knows about the King in Yellow. He'll say something about the King in Yellow. Pasquale's butler indicates a small parlor where you are to wait, and then sweeps away to another part of the house. After 10 long minutes, you hear the occultist bid farewell to his client and then call to you from the hall. I'm sure Armitage won't thank you for hanging around in my parlor. You sit down in his library and take in the occult paraphernalia. Shelves and shelves of books with portentous title line... Hold on. Shelves of books with portentous titles line the walls, and glass jars with odd-colored liquids suspending a variety of horrific specimens cover every surface. Well, he demands, sweeping his embroidered jacket out from behind him as he sits with a haughty flourish. Why has that old fool sent you scurrying to my doorstep? The fate of the Jade Scarab, the location of the crypt of the fallen necromancer, Mazbeth Trent, more reproduced pages of the Necronomicon. As he finishes speaking, an impeccably timed peal of thunder makes you jump in your seat. You explain the little you know about the play at the Manly Theatre and the deaths that have befallen several of the patrons. He strokes a large crystal ball and mutters several archaic incantations when his eyes roll back inside his head, showing only milky pupils. You are taken aback at this sudden act of conjuring. It seems that agents of the king are abroad in Arkham. Armitage was wise to send you to me. They must be stopped before they bring ruin upon our town. I'm sorry I cannot decipher their means or their goals. Should you visit the library, and assuming that Armitage has given you access, I would suggest you try the Unaussprechlichen Kulten, known as the Nameless Cults. Unaussprechlichen. I don't know. Though I warn you, there are passages therein that have sent many a scholar raving mad. Take requirement card 1. Alright, let's go read a book. We already read The King in Yellow, I guess, so... The library. That would be the Miskatonic Library. University, Miskatonic. The Orne Library, C23. C23. That is our 7th location, so it's now day 3. We've got loads of time, man. Could do all sorts of stuff. Miskatonic Orne Library is cold and dark, and the rain patters against the thick, leaded windows. You track down Amelia Sargent, helping a small foreign-looking gentleman in a fez. Nice to see you again. What has Armitage got you chasing today, I wonder? You explain that you are looking into the deaths connected with people who attended the theater last night. A ritual connected to a play? It doesn't ring a bell, I'm afraid. If you had more to go on, I might be able to point you at a specific book. If you have requirement card 1, proceed to supplemental encounters and read 1. I will do so. You mentioned the book Unaussprechlichen Kulten to Miss Sargent. She immediately perks up. Oh yes, we certainly have a copy of that, and an English translation from the original German, you'll be pleased to hear. She leads you into the restricted reading room of the university. The original 1839 German edition is locked in our vault at present. This is an English edition issued by Bridewell in London in 1845, titled Nameless Cults. I'm afraid it's an imperfect translation, but for our purposes, I'm sure it'll suffice. After an hour or so of reading and cross-referencing, you realize that Pasquale Fenton, old fraud or not, had been on to something after all. With growing horror, you realize that the play was a variation on the diabolical and forbidden French play, The King in Yellow. Yeah, I know. Telling the fate of lost Carcosa. More than that, Nameless Cults goes on to describe a spell used by the cult of Hastur to draw Carcosa and its unspeakable masters to Earth. The actors had used the performance and the energy of the audience to summon Carcosa. Thankfully, something had gone wrong, and the incantation was transferred to the front row of the audience instead of the actors. You mutter thanks to Miss Sargent and rushing out into the rain, pulling your call up against the elements. So I think we actually do have to hunt down the actors now. The question is, do we go for the ones that have already killed themselves, or do we go for the ones we can talk to? Because on the one hand, you assume that the ones that killed themselves, it hit them harder than the other ones, maybe, and so they wrote something down, or there's a clue at their house. But, you know, I guess we'll probably go with the ones we could talk to. So let's talk to the next one, Edward Long? Is that name right? Edward Fisk. Why did I write down Edward Long? It's one of the Fisks. Okay, Edward Fisk. Let's go talk to him. Fisk, Edward, N65. Afternoon of day 3. You are met at the doorstep by a teenage boy with an unruly mop of blonde curly hair. You ask if you might speak to Edward Fisk, and the youth's face turns ashen. He invites you inside, calling for his mother. Mrs. Fisk receives you graciously, but it is clear that she is very worried. Edward's not here, I'm afraid. We had to take a rather drastic step last night and commit him into the care of the Arkham Sanitarium. When you tactfully ask why, she replies, "My son Edward..." Edward, come on. My son Edward can be a little wayward at times. Okay. Partying with his friends till all hours, neglecting his work, spending money like it was going out of fashion. But boys will be boys, I suppose. Last night he went to a show with those friends of his, and when he came back, there was something very wrong with him. He was withdrawn, he kept babbling and sweating, and then he attacked his younger brother. It's probably because you named both your sons Edward, you shit. We had to drag Edward off poor Matthew. Oh, wait. Oh, I see. I see. They're not both named Edward. I don't know why I got that impression. My son Edward. Okay, yeah, anyways. We had to drag Edward off poor Matthew. My husband called the doctor and he recommended convalescence in the sanitarium. I hated having to do that, but I felt better after I'd had a chat with that nurse. What was his name? Curtis, I think. Yeah, Leon Curtis. He made us feel like we had done the right thing for our son. Well, that might be real suspicious. Like, oh, you did the right thing. Yeah, you know, it could be creepy. But I think we will pay a visit to the sanitarium. That seems like a good idea. Arkham Sanitarium. Sanatorium. In the book, it's listed as the sanatorium. In this book, it's the sanitarium. Who knows for sure, but we're going there either way. D1. The first of the D's. During a downpour isn't the best time to visit the sanitarium. The staff are irritable and the patients unsettled by being cooped up. You speak to an orderly inquiring about Edward Fisk's arrival. You are told that the man is sleeping peacefully after being sedated. He was treated and given an initial assessment by one of the senior nursing staff, Leon Curtis. Nurse Curtis and Edward spoke for around an hour during the night, and it was felt that a week or so of convalescence should be sufficient to restore Mr. Fisk. When you push for more information, the orderly impatiently folds her arms. You'll have to speak to Leon when he comes back on shift. He was going for some food and a coffee before visiting the shops on Main Street. He won't be back again until later night when he starts his shift again. As you turn to leave, a janitor catches your sleeve. If you want to get off on the right foot with Leon, then you should buy him a double espresso with cream. He gets powerful cranky when it's raining. He winks as you thank him for the advice. Take requirement card 2. Alright, here we go now. So, it's going to be a diner on Main Street. Well, technically she says for some food and a coffee before visiting the shops on Main Street. So I guess it doesn't have to be a diner on Main Street, but, you know, we'll take a gander. So first we have to find Main Street. Here, East and West Main Street. That'll do. Let's find a diner, cafe, anything like that. Diners. Okay, so these are all, well, shit. There's a lot of them. Bell Cafe is at M42. That's right. No, that's on Church Street, so that's no good. That's no good. Bee's Diner. No, it would have to be Church Street Cafeteria. That's on Church Street. Well, I think maybe the Bell Cafe is our best bet. Just because it's pretty damn close to Main Street. So let's look up M42, see if it's in the book. Otherwise, we'll rethink our strategy. M42 is in the book. Let us read. Day 4. You open the door to the cafe just as Pasquale Fenton walks out. He seems to be in a hurry and tells you to stop by his home if you want to chat. I already did, you ask. Inside the empty cafe, a dour woman is picking her nails at the counter. You ask her if she knows a customer by the name of Leon Curtis. He's not someone I know, hon. She drawls and you depart. Shit. Okay, we'll go to the place literally next door, because they also presumably serve coffee. Church Street Cafeteria is M44. You ask the polite young man who shows you to your table if Leon Curtis has been in today. He immediately points out a stocky middle-aged man with salt and pepper hair. Leon looks up frowning from his steaming slice of cherry pie. You asking after me? Who are you? You give him some brief details of your investigation in connection with Edward Fisk. I can't really discuss patients. I could get fired. Sorry to have wasted your time. I can recommend the pie, but stay away from the bologna sandwiches. If you're requiring card 2, proceed to supplemental encounters, read entry 2. Well, we found one of these. You order a double espresso with cream and take it over to Leon's table. You thank Leon and turn to leave when he calls you back. Wait, hold up a minute. Listen, I don't think Edward would mind me telling you a little. He's a nice guy, just been through a stressful time. He was at the theater last night with 2 girls, Abby and Carolyn. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. I read the morning paper as well. That girl Carolyn hung herself last night. My professional opinion? Them kids sniffed something they shouldn't have. Cocaine or maybe that nocturne drug, and it messed with their brains. Some big guy with a dusty suit roughed him up as well to add insult to injury. Eddie is sitting in a padded cell repeating a phrase from a play he saw over and over again. I hope that a couple more days will flush whatever he has poisoned himself with out of his system. You ask him if he can recall the phrase. Oh yeah, he babbled it for several hours straight. Second, accept that we, the mute, lame, the stupid, the dull, the weak, offer ourselves to your darkness. That guy who roughed him up wanted to know it too. Right, so what happened is they did this ritual, or, they did the play, and the play was meant to... Okay, here's what... Okay. They do the play based on King and Yellow. That opens up a connection between them and Hastur. Hastur then provides them with instructions on doing a bigger ritual to bring Carcosa to Earth, which of course is obviously the really bad thing. But something went wrong with the ritual, and instead of giving them the information and giving them the connection with Hastur, it gave it to everyone in the front row. So... now we have 2 parts. We have the first part and the second part, but there's a lot more, I would think. So I'm going to write this down, because again, I can't consult the book once we get to the questions, so it's just kind of a pain in the ass. So the question is then, well, I guess what we have to do is go to everyone that was in the front row, right? And so we can find out the full ritual. I don't know if we can do anything about it or anything like that, but it's cool. I'll give him that. It's cool. Okay, second. Accept that we, the mute, lame, the stupid, the dull, the weak, offer ourselves to your darkness. It's very cultish, I guess. Okay. Okay. 54 minutes. That's fine. Let's move on then to the next name on the list, which is Abby Osgood. F65. We're at evening of day 4. Abby Osgood's home sits at the corner of Southeast Street and East Church Street on the crest of French Hill. You're greeted at the door by an older woman dressed immaculately with a put-upon expression. You inquire whether Abby is at home, but the woman rolls her eyes. She is, but I'm not sure she's fit to receive visitors, the state she came home in last night. She rolled in at midnight, steaming drunk. Her friend Mary Roach dropped her off. No doubt their other partner in crime, Carolyn Merrill, was in on it as well. Young woman these days. Really, Mother, you do fuss something fierce. Now run along. It's me that was asked for. A fresh-faced young flapper comes bouncing down the staircase. If she has had a heavy night drinking with her slight build, then she must have the constitution of a buffalo. I have a constitution of a buffalo. Among other things. Don't pay no heed to Mother. She's such an old stick in the mud. You ask her about the play. Oh, that dreary thing. It was Carrie's idea, Carolyn Merrill. She had gotten us tickets, for her, Eddie Fisk, and me. Mary was coming to meet us later. I took one look at the old coots who were in the audience and decided to stay in the bar, where I met a delightful young gentleman who was more than happy to share my stash of gin. She grins innocently and winks. I must admit that I never actually made it into my seat. I hope Carrie had a nice time without me. Yeah, you'd think you'd read a paper in this town, but... I mean, this paper is from like 4 days ago now. But yeah, your friend is dead. Okay, so she wasn't at the play, so that's pretty useless. Next on the list, Carolyn Merrill is dead, so we go on to Anthony Jackson. That's a good strong name. Anthony Jackson is at M74. Day 5, morning. The small garret is a tranquil space filled with canvases, paint, and brushes. As she shows you in, Jackson's landlady is very complimentary of the artist and his habits. Oh yes, very respectable man, our Mr. Jackson. He's been doing some work for the Rotary Club. Much of the work is unfinished, but a few of the landscapes of the Miskatonic Valley show great promise and a keen eye for color. On a small table, you discover a short missive in an unopened envelope addressed to Anthony Jackson. In it, the sender, identified only as CR, tells Anthony about the King Cometh, adding that they have acquired 2 tickets. Next to the envelope is a train timetable showing departures from Arkham to the surrounding area. CR. Carlton Rich is CR. Alright, just keep going down the list. I guess we'll see Carlton Rich and see if he's got anything to say. We have enough time to visit all the people on the list, so it's better than nothing. Until we get some other big clue. Carlton Rich doesn't live here. I guess that makes sense. So Carlton Rich visited here to see the play, and then he left. But what the tickets? Oh no, the envelope is just showing the train timetable. So I think they're gone. I don't think we can do anything about that. So Lauren Reed is next. N62. You find the door to Lauren Reed's home ajar and find the place ransacked. Someone was searching for something. You notice the traces of white flour on the furniture. You catch sight of an address book discarded on the hall table, and flicking through discover an entry for E. Parker, listed as her sister. Okay, so Parker was not there, but that's probably where she's hiding. So Parker, E. Parker. There are 2 E. Parkers. 2 E. Parkers? Are you shitting me? We'll go with L55 first. The second one. They don't expect me to do that. Fuck. An elderly woman answers the door. No, dear, I don't have a sister called Lauren. My sister married into the Marsh family 40 years ago and lives in Innsmouth. Oh, well, sucks to be you. I've not heard from her for a while, but I'm sure that husband of hers is looking after her. No, that's not it. So D54. They knew what I was up to. They knew that I would go to the second one first. Damn them. Damn them all to hell. With trepidation, you knock on the door of the first-floor apartment. A suspicious-looking woman opens the door on a chain and tells you to leave. Are you deaf? I said you're not wanted here. Now get out of here before I call the cops. You insist that you just want to know if her sister Lauren is okay. The door suddenly snaps shut and the chain rattles. Before it opens again, you come face to face with a different young woman. The stern woman, the sister, stands behind her and holding a fire poker menacingly. I'm Lauren, and as you can see, I'm perfectly well, apart from a splitting headache. Now please come in and tell me why you're so interested in my safety. Why, you invite them into your home? You follow the two women into a cozy parlor. It transpires that Lauren Reed has had some unwanted advances made to her by the local press, keen to get an insight on a case connected with her work. Lauren gestures for you to sit, and you explain about the deaths of those attending the play, while keeping an eye on the menacing poker. She looks stunned. I can't believe it. You think all those people dying last night was connected to that performance? I was supposed to be going with my colleague, Penelope Larry. We worked together over at the Lakin Institute, and she had treated me to theater tickets for a girls' night out. There was some sort of problem. She was called back into work, some missing paperwork regarding a case we were handling. The press had been sniffing around looking for a story. She insisted that I go alone. She's okay, isn't she? You tell her that, to your knowledge, her friend Miss Larry is in perfect health, and inquire if Lauren has any strong recollections or feelings from the play. I can't really remember much about the play. It seemed to drag on and on. Something about a family who were waiting for a guest to arrive from afar, and then he brought problems, or was it rewards? Anyhow, there was lots of tedious arguing between characters. One thing does stick out for me. I think it was a line of dialogue from one of the actors near the end. The line was, "Fifth, unto the final night when 9 teeth jut up lining the maw of living earth." I'm not even sure it means anything, but I can't get out of my head. You advise Miss Reed to remain at her sister's for the time being for her own safety. Okay, that's interesting. We went straight to fifth. I mean, I'm hoping that fifth is the last one. Because I don't know if I have time to find that many more. Finding the maw of living earth. Okay, so Penelope Larry wasn't there, which leaves two names left, David Danforth and Julian Stratton. So David Danforth. U-27. Fingers crossed, I guess. The huge house stands slightly back from the street, set into its own landscape grounds. You sound the doorbell and are greeted by Mr. Danforth's valet. Mr. Danforth is at the First Bank today. He had planned to take the day off, but an unfortunate headache made him cancel his theater plans last night. He woke fresh as a daisy this morning and decided to go into the office to catch up on his paperwork. Man, everybody's canceling the play. Go see the damn play. Julian Stratton. Stratton. M68. I don't know if I'm... Hold on. I don't know if I'm keeping up with this. 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. Okay, so we're day 6 evening. So we only have 3 more spots after this. The door is opened by an elderly woman who looks as though she has been crying. You inquire after Mr. Stratton. She tells you that his family is over at their church, the Temple Baptist in East Town. As to the whereabouts of the body, she doesn't know whether it is at the hospital still or has been moved to Mr. Malloy's funeral home. You ask the woman what happened to Julian. I don't rightly know. He went to the opening night of the new play over at the Manley. He was supposed to be meeting his friend from the bank there. He came back around 10:30 with a haunted look in his eye. Said he thought that someone was after him. Anyway, he decided he'd be better off going to the police and telling them, and he went off. That was the last we saw of him. He was hit by a car. Huh. Was that report? That wasn't reported. No. No, it wasn't. Damn. That's all the names. Technically, we didn't see Francis Long's house, nor did we go to Carolyn Merrill's house, nor did we go to Penelope Larry's house. 2 of them are dead. 1 didn't go to the play. Alternatively, we go to the police. I mean, the coroner has a few bodies now, right? But why would... Well, maybe they had some pieces of paper or something like that. So let's go... Yeah, let's go to the police station. D32. Here we go. Damn, this is a big section. Police station is chaotic today. Officers and detectives rush in and out of the station, and the constant hubbub is distracting. You spot Mickey Tull, Garrison's sergeant, and ask about the inspector. Sorry, Garrison's called in sick today, and he has missed the busiest day we've had in a long time. I feel sorry for Doc Sutton over at the hospital. 4 autopsies in one morning. You inquire what the fuss is all about, and you are told that the station is dealing with 4 separate deaths. Someone fell under a train this morning. Then a second man died when he ran in front of a passing car. Then there was a suspected murder over at Arkham Trolley Company last night. And to cap it all off, some rich lady from Uptown decided she would take her own life. I have to say we're a little stretched at the moment, so I can only spare you a couple minutes. What do you need? You take a chance and ask for more details, hoping the sergeant is in a forthcoming mood. Well, over at a train station, a man by the name of Anthony Jackson was writing graffiti on the footbridge over the tracks when he slipped just as 7:20 a.m. to Aylesbury was coming through. He was killed instantly. Julian Stratton was knocked down and killed near his home in the Merchant District. He was writing graffiti. He probably wrote another thing. That's got to be our next destination. Julian Stratton was knocked down and killed near his home in the Merchant District. There seems to be conflicting accounts of what happened. The driver says he just ran out in front of the car from an alley and it was too late to brake. A couple of bystanders reported that he may have been chased as he had a terrified expression on his face and was running at top speed. Constable Withers is at the trolley company, and that seems like an open and shut murder case. Francis Long was beaten, robbed, and then stabbed by a large muscled man with a shaven head and a fair mustache. The central witness is over there in room B giving a statement. And before you ask, no, you cannot interview him. He pauses to check his notebook. Lastly, Miss Carolyn Merrill decided that all her money couldn't buy her happiness and went for a long swing from her staircase on a short bit of electrical cable. She left a note, so that one seems to solve itself. Unfortunate that her better half didn't make it to the house in time. Before she hung herself, she put on a lot of black eyeliner. I guess she wanted to look creepy. Dunno. Her boyfriend's name? You'll have to check with the officers at the scene, I'm afraid. And should you stumble over any information, make sure you come to us. Okay, so our first step, we're going to go to the train station. Second, we're going to go to Carolyn Merrill's house. If we can see the note, that would be nice. Maybe it has something, but... we're not going to get all the pieces of the puzzle, unfortunately. But we'll do what we can. So, train station. Did he say which one? No, just train station. There's only one train station. The B&M train station at N38. Here we go. The main station and platforms at the train station are sheltered by high glass ceilings, and you are glad to be out of the rain. There are a few travelers waiting for their connections, but the early morning rush has long since subsided. You notice that every so often, people further down platform 2 point up at the footbridge and engage in heated conversation before moving onward. As you get closer to the footbridge that spans the tracks, you can clearly see daubed across the bridge in 6 feet high yellow lettering the phrase, "Fourth, turn to you, O Hastur. We raise our hands and voices in prayers for an answer." Alright, good. Hold on. It goes on, but hold on. So this is where it would mention Hastur as part of their rights. We raise our hands and voices in prayers for an answer. You ask a uniformed employee carrying a bucket of whitewash and a ladder about the graffiti. You should have seen it this morning. What a mess. Some idiot wearing a hood decides he's going to paint a crazy message across my bridge. Just clambered over, held on with one hand, and started sloshing paint around. When the boys from the office tried to get him down, he threatened he'd jump and kill himself. So we were starting to get a little worried. 720 Islesbury commuters coming down the line and fast. He finishes the writing, and Ernie yells at him to get down again. Then he looks Ernie dead in the eye and shouts something about how it's all too much to know, and Carcosa is coming. He must have lost his footing on the wet struts, as suddenly he tumbled right underneath the wheels of the locomotive. That was the end of that. Right mess to clean up, and the police have been under our feet all morning. Ernie swears the man jumped when he saw this big guy covered in flour looking at him, but I don't know about that. You thank him and head back to the street. Okay. Finally, then we will go to Carolyn Merrill's house. I imagine there'll probably be an extra step there that we won't be able to do, but we'll try it. U60. Final location. Merrill's house is a rangy three-story affair in dark brick. An expensive-looking Packard convertible automobile is parked badly up on the sidewalk near the house. 2 police officers greet you at the door, and you invoke Inspector Garrison's name to gain entry to the scene. The older of the 2 shows you inside. Just a peek, mind you. I shouldn't really be doing this at all. The policeman walks you into a hall strongly scented with flowers and points to an electrical cable, the kind you would expect to attach a lamp to a wall outlet. It is knotted around a railing on the man's staircase up her balustrade, and the dangling end has been cut by a sharp implement. The coroner, no doubt, when he removed the body. Not a nice way to go, jumping off the top of the stairs like that. We're pretty sure there was no foul play here, because she left us a clear message. He leads you to the top of the stairs and points to the wall on the landing. The message is daubed in red paint across the patterned wallpaper. It is all too much for me to take. Third, sleeping, we turn our blind eyes to the hunter's killer, for there Carcosa lies. I'm so sorry. She was an artsy sort. I suppose that accounts for the strange message. The policeman leads you back downstairs and into the library, where a young man sits at a table, weeping softly. This is Mr. Mark Gasquet, the boyfriend of Miss Merrill. The man looks up and you take a seat across from him. You explain you don't wish to upset him further, but if he has anything to add, it may help you investigate Carolyn's death. There isn't much to tell, I'm afraid. She called me up just after 11 p.m. She was hysterical and crying that Carcosa was coming, that it was the end. She said she called to say sorry for leaving me. I drove over here as fast as I could, but I was too late. You offer your condolences to the poor man and silently slip away, thanking the police officers for their help. On your way out, you cannot help but notice a footprint in white flour on the carpet near the door. So I think we actually might have gotten them all. We got 1 through 5. If there was a 6th one, that sucks, but we got 1 through 5. I'm pretty happy. So third, sleeping, we turn our blind eyes to the hunter's killer. I think that's like a nickname for a moon or a star or something like that. For there, Carcosa lies. Nice. All right, that's all the things. Let's get those questions. Here we go. What happened at the theater? A ritual to contact Haster went wrong. I'll put first row. We all know what happened there. It's not a big deal. 2. What was the name of the shaven-headed murderer? Ooh. If I need first and last, that sucks. But his second name, I'm pretty sure, is Fincher. His last name was Fincher. What was the names of the other cultists? See, that's again, it's like they probably want like full names, right? I know one of them was Michael Gorski. I didn't write down the first names. I figured that was not important. I don't know. Edward Klasnick. The real question is whether or not I'm going to give myself credit for this. I'm going to give myself credit for it either way because it was just I didn't write it down. I found the answer. That's what matters. And I don't know. Samuel Barnes. I wrote down the last name. It's good enough. What was the names of the 6 people the cult hunted? Whew. Okay. Francis Long was hunted. Edward Fisk was hunted. Or Edward Fisk. Abby Osgood, did she go? She didn't go. She sat at the bar, right? So Carolyn Merrill. Anthony Jackson definitely went. Lauren Reed. Did she go? Yep, she went. Lauren Reed went. One more. Danforth Stratton. Did Stratton go? Stratton went, right? He was the guy that ran in front of the car. Yeah, Stratton went. There we go. All right. What are the 6 lines? Come on, 6 lines. Recite as many as you are able. All right. Okay, okay, I got that. That's fine. Why did Abby Osgood miss the play? Abby Osgood missed the play because it was boring. Went to the bar. How did construction worker Eddie Rollins get injured and which body part did he hurt? Well, I don't know about that, man. I have no idea. That one I missed completely. Who are the Randolphins? And what is the Randolphins' connection to Nocturne, the dream narcotic? Well, didn't get any of those. Why has the Miskatonic University Geological Expedition been delayed? Because they're doing the, they're looking into the tunnels instead. I guess. That's what I'm writing down. We'll see how we go. Alrighty here. Answers. Yep, performed a contact spell during the 3rd act to gain the spell Summon Carcosa. Something went wrong, and the spell fragmented into the front row of the audience. 3 points for that one. Excellent. 3. What was the name of shaven-headed murderer? Thomas Fincher. 2 points. Names of the other cultists. Silas Barnes, Evie Klasnick, Michael Gorski. 2 points if you name them all. 1 point if you have surnames only. So I could give myself just the 1 point. But honestly, I found the names. I don't care. I should have written them down. But it was a matter of finding the information or not. I found the information. You're not here, so you can't stop me. I'm giving myself 2 points. What were the names of the 6 people the cult hunted? Francis Long, Edward Fisk, Carolyn Merrill, Anthony Jackson, Julian Stratton, Lauren Reed. I got them all. 1 point for each. Hell yeah. 6 points. 5. What are the 6 lines of the Summon Carcosa incantation? 1 line for each line you discovered, with an additional 1 point bonus for using the 6 lines to open the bakery cellar combination lock. 7 points possible. So I got 6 points because I got the cellar opening. I got the open thing there. I got 5 out of 6. 6 points. The 6th line is Return, Hastur, heed us. Your star steeds, Lord, the black night sky. Return, Hastur, save us. So the first letter of each one spells out Haster. I don't know. See, I would not have figured that out. That seems a lot harder. But I guess. All right, so 6 points for that one. That's pretty good. 6. Why did Abby Osgood miss the play? She was drunk in the bar. 1 point. 7. How was the construction worker Eddie Rollins injured, and which body part did he hurt? He fell into a large cave and broke his leg. Oh, damn it. That was where I knew that name from. That's right. Eddie Rollins. There he did. He broke his leg. Shit. All right. I just failed on that one. I'm sorry. Who are the Randolphins? A Kingsport-based smuggling crime family. What is the Randolphins' connection to Nocturne? They are smuggling in an Arkham at the behest of Carl Stanford. See, that's just side stuff. Like, that's just, oh, we happen to look into this, and so we get some points. I guess it's like a consolation prize if you happen to follow that lead instead, but, like, I knew that had nothing to do with it, so I don't know. Why was the Miskatonic University Geological Expedition been delayed? Oh, Professor Harry Peck has been threatened by the Randolphin gang. Okay. Count the number of locations you traveled to. If they did not contain an actual written encounter, you should have kept track using the time track. See, that doesn't make any sense. Count the number of locations you traveled to if they did not contain an actual written encounter. I don't know. How many was that? Like 3? It wasn't that many. I think we'll go with 3. Deduct 1 point for every location you traveled beyond 15. 3. So, minus 9 points for that. If you read the copy of King and Yell at the Harding House, deduct 1 point from your score for the debilitating effect on your sanity. If you read Nameless Cults in the library, restricted reading room, deduct 1 point to reflect knowledge you cannot unlearn. So that's minus 2. So, in total, we had 5, 7, 13, 9, 20, minus 11 is 9. We were 9 points total. Basically, we're shit. Don't be too hard on yourself. This case awards fewer points than other cases. If you scored fewer than 13 points, Armitage feels the need to educate you on the Dreamlands. Turn to Investigation 4's Supplemental Encounters and read Entry 6 before beginning the next case, The Slumbering Solace. It sucks, right? Because I feel like I did okay this time, but according to the score, I'm an absolute piece of shit. So, damn. I mean, we got a lot of points on the question part. At least it feels like it. But the deductions. The deductions, man. 9-point deduction. Just because I didn't go to the right bakery or the right diner. It's just like, damn it. Alright, let's read the solution and end this. As you enter, Henry grips you firmly by the elbow and steers you back through the door. You won't want to miss this, he says cryptically as he leads you through the campus and then north into the Merchant District. He points across the intersection where a police paddy wagon is parked with its rear doors open. Several officers are pulling a large, heavily muscled, shaven-headed man out of the Tartanowski's bakery, which has been closed for refurbishment. The fight appears to have gone out of him, but nearby officers who are nursing injuries prove that he didn't exactly come quietly. Come on, I think you've earned a medal. I think you've earned a meal and a sit-down while we discuss the case. It was a close-run thing, but I'm afraid the cult of Hastra will be disappointed. Carcosa, for the time being, is held at bay. The old librarian hails a cab and secures you a table together at the elegant University Spa restaurant. As you are eating your entree, Armitage lays the case out before you. I was right, then, about the deaths, and there was no coincidence there. That fiend we have just seen locked up was involved in each of them directly or indirectly. He always seemed to be one step ahead, leaving chaos in his wake. He tortured and killed poor Francis Long and chased Julian Stratton to his death, but it was the play that was the root of all the misfortune that has occurred. Unausprechlichen Colton proved helpful in determining just what they were after, a spell to bring Carcosa to earth and doom the town to the wrath of Hastur, the tattered king. Something went wrong with their contact ritual, and the spell, as I suspected, was implanted in the minds of those occupying the front row. I had suspected the theater clerk Samuel Averill might be in league with them. That was until I met him, and he furnished me with a list of patrons from the performance. I tracked each of the parts of the incantation down. Carolyn Merrill's and Anthony Jackson's fragile minds had snapped with the power of the verse, and they took their own lives. Fisk's family, lucky for him, offered him to the care of the sanitarium, and there Leon Curtis learned his powerful words. I had to visit the homes of Long and Reed's sister to fit the other pieces together. Finally, the bond trader Stratton had written it on a paper sticking out of his pocket, along with his will. I tracked the actors to the speakeasy after inquiring about them at the Manley Theater, and then to the bakery. The leader of the troupe, our shaven-headed friend Thomas Fincher, was holed up, planning his next move, and he came very close to recovering the parts he needed. The old librarian, a twinkle in his eye, raises a glass to a job well done. Yep. So he went to exactly 15 locations. He went to Pasquale Fenton, the occultist, first. Now, see, the way that he did it, he could not answer any of those extra questions about, the drugs and the crime family and all that. Like, you just don't know. So he just skips all that shit. He doesn't care. He just cares, much like Sherlock Holmes. He just cares about doing it as quickly as possible in the exact perfect order. Well, I feel like based on what he could answer and what he did, he got like 15 points. Okay, well, it's not a big deal. The point of the game I've found, I've lost almost every single one of these things that I've done through Sherlock Holmes, Mythos Tales. I've lost almost every single one. You get to the end no matter what. You get to read the solution, you get to answer some questions every time, but usually you don't get enough points to win. I wish they kind of just removed the whole scoring thing completely and you just did the mystery, So at this point, it's really just about going through the story and reading some cool stuff and just seeing what you can figure out and seeing, the way the pieces put together and things like that. The whole scoring thing is just, it's whatever. It just doesn't matter to me. If you do win, that's cool. I don't feel like I'm that stupid. So I think it's just a really tough thing. Also, most of these times I'm by myself. I think it is a little tougher by myself. But yeah, it's about the journey, not the destination, is what I think. As a sore loser, that's what I'm going to tell you. But that was a pretty cool one. I like Castor a lot. It's one of my favorite parts of the Mythos. King in Yellow and the play and all that. I like all that stuff. So this was a really cool scenario. The next one is the Slumbering Solace, which involves, I don't even know if you'll be able to see it here. Whoops. It involves somebody sleeping there, but there's like a creepy figure standing over them or something like that. So this is probably going to involve the Dreamlands in some way, especially because he was like, you failed, so I'm going to give you a lecture about the Dreamlands. So Dreamlands are pretty cool. All right, I guess that about wraps it up for this one. It took us about an hour and a half. They said it was going to be a bit longer, but that's not that much longer. So, all right. Mythos Tales, very cool game. Just like Sherlock Holmes, just really cool stuff. It's just a great way to spend some time. Better with another person, definitely. Or just a great way to spend an evening or something like that. But my name is Mang. This has been Board Mangging for Mythos Tales, case number 3, The King Cometh. I'll see you fine folks around.